Let's begin class today by taking a few moments to focus on the breath. Lie down on your back, supporting yourself as needed. You can put a rolled blanket or bolster underneath your knees, or you can put a blanket that's very neatly folded beneath your head. Your arms are about 45 degrees off the body with the palms turned up, letting your shoulders relax into the ground. Begin to deepen your breath, breathing in and out through the nose. And if you're congested and that's not possible, just breathe gently through your mouth. And now begin to bring the breath all the way down below the belly button, expanding through your ribs as you inhale, and slowly releasing the exhalation, taking it all the way to the end so that you exhale out every last bit of breath possible. See if you can slow the breath down with each cycle. Bend your knees one leg at a time. Move your bolster or blanket off to the side. And then moving into Apanasana, bring both knees in toward your chest, placing your palms on your kneecaps with the fingers facing forward. And then as you inhale, drop your knees away from you until your arms are straight. As you exhale, your knees come back in toward the chest and your elbows bend. Continue with your breath, inhaling as the knees drop away and exhaling as they come in toward you. Continue moving with your breath and trying to slow the breath down with each cycle. The next time your knees are in toward your chest, keep them there. And if you like, you can place a blanket between your knees for this next pose. Open your arms out into a T. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, lower your knees over to the right. Your gaze can turn to the left, or you can look straight up toward the ceiling, whatever's more comfortable for your neck. If your knees don't come all the way down to the floor, you can put a blanket or a block or a bolster underneath that right knee so that you can completely release into the pose. And with every exhalation, feel yourself release a little more deeply. On your next inhalation, bring your knees back up to the center, moving from your core so that you're not just swinging your knees up. And then as you exhale, lower your knees over to the left. On your next inhalation, bring the knees back up to the center. Take a deep breath there. And then take your blanket, place it off to the side, and bring your feet down to the ground. Draw your right knee in toward your chest, clasping around your shin, and then slide your left leg out straight. The left foot is flexed with the toes pointing up toward the ceiling, and the left thigh is pressing down toward the ground. And gently pull that right thigh toward your chest. Now begin to circle the right foot to the outside. Nice big circles, taking the ankle through its full range of motion. And then reverse the circle, so you're circling the foot to the inside. And then relax your right foot. Keep your right hand where it is. Take your left hand to the top of your left hip and keep that hip grounded as you take the right knee out to the right side. And for most of us, that leg will go out to about 45 to 60 degrees. It's not going to come all the way down to the ground, so don't try to make it. And then bring your knee back up to the center. Release the leg, lower the foot to the ground. Bend your left knee, bringing the sole of the foot to the ground. And then bring that knee in toward your chest, clasping around the shin. Slide your right leg out straight. Flex the right foot. And the toes point up toward the ceiling. Gently drawing that left knee in toward you as you continue to breathe deeply. Begin to circle your left foot to the outside. Nice big slow circles. And then reverse the circle, circling to the inside. Relax the left foot. Keep your left hand where it is and take your right hand to the top of your right hip. And then slowly open that left knee out to the side. Coming back to your breath, the breath should be just as deep and even as it was in the very beginning of class. And then bring that knee back in toward the center. Release the shin, lower your foot to the ground. And then bend the right knee so the soles of both feet are on the ground. And slowly roll yourself off to your side, resting your head on your arm. And then push your hand into the ground to push yourself up. Let your head hang so it comes up last. And from here, make your way into a comfortable seated position. If sitting is not comfortable for you, try sitting on a blanket or two with your sit bones right on the edge of the blanket. This gives you enough of a lift that you're able to keep your spine perpendicular to the ground. You can have your legs straight out in front of you or in a cross-legged position. Bring your hands to your thighs and take a few deep breaths. And on your next inhalation, let your arms float up. Clasp your hands, turn your palms up toward the ceiling, creating length through your spine by moving your lower ribs away from the top of your hips, rather than by hunching your shoulders into your ears. As you exhale, release your hands and let your arms float down. Clasp your hands behind you, reaching up, taking care not to overstretch through the shoulders. You just want a nice, gentle stretch here. And then release your hands, bringing your hands back to your thighs. Rotate your shoulders, nice big circles. And reverse. Relax your shoulders and circle your head to the right. And when you go to the back, just barely tilt to the back. You don't want to drop your head all the way back. At the end of your next circle, reverse to the left. At the end of your next circle, bring your head back up to the center. Bring your arms in front of you and circle your hands to the outside. And to the inside. Turn your palms up toward the ceiling and bring your fingertips to your shoulders and elbows toward each other. As you inhale, open your elbows wide. And as you exhale, bring your elbows back toward each other. Continue this with your breath. After your next cycle of this, release your hands back down to your thighs. Take a deep breath there. And then slide your hands forward toward your kneecaps. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, press your left hand against the left knee. Twist gently to the right. As you inhale, make your way back to the center. And then as you exhale, press your right hand against your right knee, twisting to the left as your gaze turns toward your left shoulder. As you inhale, make your way back to the center. And then exhale, folding forward, placing your hands on the ground in front of you. Keep your spine nice and long as you tilt the pelvis forward. So you should feel yourself rolling to the front of your sit bones as your belly comes down toward your feet. You can stay up on your hands or you can lower to your forearms. If you're on your forearms, your belly should be touching your feet. If it's not, your spine is most likely rounded here. So if you find that your forearms are on the ground, the belly's not touching the feet, come back up onto your hands, lift your forearms off the ground. Try to find that length through your spine. And if your forearms are on the ground, the belly's on the feet, you can walk your hands forward, lengthening out through the arms and bringing your forehead to the ground. As you inhale, bring your chest up just slightly and then walk your hands over to the right so that your torso comes over the right thigh. And then you can begin to fold forward again, bringing the belly down toward that thigh. And keep the spine nice and long here. You're not trying to get the head to the ground. And you should feel a nice twist through the side of the body. And then walk your hands back through the center, over to the left. Spine nice and long. As you exhale, you can soften your belly down toward that left thigh. Walk your hands back to the center. Exhaling down into the pose. And then on an inhalation, slowly walk your hands back toward you, bringing your torso back up again. And your hands come back to your thighs. Breathing deeply. From here, move your blanket off to the side. And then if you have blocks, take your blocks and place them near the front of your mat so you don't have to move too far to grab them once we're standing up. Come onto your hands and knees. And then exhale back to child's pose. On your next inhalation, come back up to your hands and knees, preparing for cat-cow. Hands are right beneath your shoulders, knees beneath your hips. Take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, drop your tailbone down toward the ground. Your spine rounds one vertebra at a time, and the head comes down at the very end. Reverse that on the inhale. The tailbone goes up toward the ceiling, spine arches down toward the ground one vertebra at a time. Your head comes up at the end. Continue that with your breath, moving very slowly through the motion. After your next cycle of cat-cow, come back to a neutral position, making sure that you're supporting through the front of the body so that your torso isn't collapsing down toward the ground. And then on an exhalation, move back to child's pose, separating your knees a little bit and bringing your big toes together. Inhale back to your hands and knees. Tuck your toes, and as you exhale, reach your hips back toward your heels to come into downward dog. As you inhale, slowly lower your knees to the ground with control, coming back to hands and knees. Exhale, moving back to child's pose. Inhale, back to hands and knees. Tuck your toes. Exhale, back to downward dog, nice and slow. Inhale, back to hands and knees. Exhale, back to child's pose. Resting there for a few breaths. On your next inhale, come back to your hands and knees. Tuck your toes and slowly move back to downward dog. Alternate bending knees as you slowly reach the opposite heel down toward the ground. If downward dog is painful for your wrists or your elbows or your shoulders, you can always come to hands and knees. It's a great modification for downward dog. And then straighten both knees, reaching your heels toward the ground. And on your next exhalation, walk your feet forward between your hands. Keep your knees bent, let your head hang, and roll yourself up, making your way into Tadasana, mountain pose. If you have blocks and you'd like to use them for Uttanasana or standing forward fold, take your blocks and place them right in front of you. You can also do this pose with your hands on the wall. Bring your hands to your hips, separate your feet about hip width. Take a deep breath in, lengthening through the spine. And then as you exhale, begin to fold forward, bringing your belly toward your thighs. Lower your hands to the blocks. If you're at the wall, you'll be in an L shape with your hands on the wall. Each time you inhale, create more length through your spine. And then as you exhale, soften your belly down toward your thighs. Lower your blocks as needed. On your next exhalation, bend your knees, bringing your belly toward your thighs. And then slowly straighten your knees, keeping your belly attached to the thighs as long as you can. It will come away and that's fine, but keep it there as long as you can. And then exhale, bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, coming all the way up. Step your feet together. Step your right foot back for Parshvattanasana. Bring that right hip forward any amount so that both hips are facing toward the front. Inhale the arms up as you ground down through the feet. And then exhale, folding forward, bringing your belly toward the front thigh. If you're using blocks, bring your blocks back so that they're on either side of that front foot. Press your feet firmly into the ground. Exhale your hands to your hips. And then inhale, come all the way up. Step the back foot forward. Coming back to mountain pose. And then step the left foot back with control. Keep that left hip facing toward the front as you step back. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, fold forward, bringing your belly toward the front thigh, placing your hands on blocks. And if you have blocks, bring them back toward your front foot. Press both feet firmly into the ground. As you exhale, bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come all the way up. And then step your back foot forward, coming back to mountain pose. And bring your hands back to your hips. Step back with the right foot, nice long step. And then turn to face the long side of your mat, feet are parallel. Inhale your arms out. Exhale, folding forward into Prasarita Padottanasana. Once again, keeping the spine long. Once you're down, you can walk your hands back between the feet any amount. If you find this causes you to round your spine, then just walk your hands forward a little bit again. Keeping your hands grounded, inhale and lift your chest. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come all the way up. Scooch your feet toward each other. And then step back to the front of your mat. Move your blocks off to the side. Coming back to mountain pose. From here we'll move into tree pose. Sometimes it's nice to step off of your mat to be on a more solid surface, or you can step back against the wall. Shift your weight over to your left foot. Bring the right foot up anywhere on that leg. The only place you don't want it, you don't want the heel pressing right into the left knee. And then bring your fingers down to your pelvis. Make sure that your hips are even and level. And then bring your hands into prayer position with the thumbs pressing right against the sternum. Shoulders are relaxed. And elbows dropping down toward your ribs so there's no tension through the shoulders, neck. Your lower belly is drawn in and up. And this gives you support through the torso, helps you balance. If you fall out of tree pose, just come back to mountain pose. Find your balance again and slowly make your way back in. On your next exhalation, release that right foot down to the ground. Shift your weight over to the right. Bring your left foot up anywhere on that leg. And bring your hands into prayer position. Your gaze can be right at eye level, or you can have a soft gaze down toward the ground, about 3 or 4 feet in front of you. On your next exhalation, release your foot to the ground, coming back to mountain pose. As you inhale, let your arms float up, bringing your hands together. Exhale, bend your knees, bringing your hands into prayer, coming into chair pose. And then lower your hands to the ground. Step back to downward dog. As you exhale, lower your knees to the ground with control and move back to child's pose. Inhale, walk your hands back toward you so you're sitting back on your heels. And then shift your hips over to one side. Bring your legs around in front of you for Dandasana. If you find that you tend to sink back a little bit in Dandasana staff pose, sit on a blanket or 2 or 3, and that will give you enough lift that you can keep your spine nice and long. So in staff pose, Dandasana, your hands are right by your hips, legs are straight, feet are flexed with the toes pointing up toward the ceiling. Coming into Janu Shirshasana, bend the right knee, bring the sole of that foot against the left thigh. If that right knee is up high off the ground, just place a block or a rolled blanket underneath it. Bring your hands to either side of the left leg. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. And as you exhale, begin to fold forward, folding just to the inside of that left leg so that you're not twisted over the leg. Keeping length through the spine. And relaxing the belly toward the thigh. Each time you inhale, lengthen even more through the spine. And as you exhale, soften the belly down toward the thigh. If you find that your foot is right there and you can just reach your hands around the foot, you can do that, taking one hand to the outside of the foot, one to the inside of the foot, making sure that you have enough room to bend the elbows. You don't want to reach the arms forward by hunching the shoulders. So just grab the foot if you can do that with ease. Otherwise, keep your hands to either side of the leg. On your next inhalation, slide your hands back along the mat, coming back up so you're sitting upright. Straighten that right leg, coming back into Dandasana. Bend the left knee, bringing the sole of the foot against the right thigh, hands to either side of the right leg. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, folding forward. And if your foot is right there and you can reach for the foot without the shoulders coming forward, you can take one hand to each side of the foot. And once you do that, draw your shoulders back to open through the chest once more. On an inhalation, slide your hands back along the mat, making your way back to Dandasana, staff pose. Coming into our seated twist, take your left hand to the outside of your right knee. And bring your right hand behind you, twisting to the right, and then turning your gaze toward your right shoulder. Inhale, come back to the center. Take your right hand to the outside of your left knee, left hand behind you, twisting to the left and turning your gaze toward the left shoulder. As you inhale, come back to the center into Dandasana. From here, we'll come into Navasana, boat pose, any of its variations. Begin by taking your hands behind your thighs. Rock back on your sit bones so your feet come off the floor. And then raise and lower your shins a few times, feeling where your belly starts to let go and the work transfers to the back. Find that point and then stay there, focusing on maintaining that engagement of the deep abdominal muscles. And then you can stay there, or you can bring your shins up so that they're parallel to the ground. Lower your feet to the ground, slide your legs out, and shake them out a little bit if you need to. From here, we'll make our way down onto our backs. Have a strap and a block within reach. And come onto your back with your knees bent, soles of feet on the ground, feet about hip width apart. Coming into bridge pose on a block, press your feet into the ground, lift your hips. Slide the block right under your sacrum, that triangular bone at the base of your spine. And then as you exhale, sink your hips down onto the block. You can stay here, or if you like, you can take your legs up toward the ceiling so that the legs are about perpendicular to the ground. You may have to adjust your block a little bit here. Bend your knees, bringing your feet down to the ground. Taking a few more breaths in bridge pose. And then press your feet into the ground, lift your hips, slide the block out, and roll yourself down. Place your block off to the side and find your strap. Strap right beneath the ball of the right foot. Taking the strap in your right hand, straighten the right leg up toward the ceiling, and then straighten your left leg on the ground. Hold the strap with your right hand. Walk your hand up the strap until your arm is straight. And then slide your shoulder back down toward the floor. Bring your left hand to the top of your left hip. Keep that hip grounded as you open the right leg out to the right side. As you inhale, bring the leg back up again. And then bend the right knee, release the strap. Take the outside of the right knee with your left hand and bring the knee over to the left. And bring the knee back up to the center. Lower the foot to the ground. And bend the left knee. Bring that knee in toward your chest. Strap right beneath the ball of the left foot. Straighten through the left leg. And then slide the right leg out straight on the floor. Take the strap in your left hand, walk your hand up the strap until your arm is straight, and then slide your shoulder back down toward the ground. Take your right hand to the front of your right hip and open that left leg out to the left side, keeping the right hip grounded. As you inhale, bring the left leg back up to the center. Bend that knee, release the strap. Take the outside of the left knee with the right hand. Lay your left arm out to the side and then bring the left knee over to the right. Your gaze can turn to the left or you can look up toward the ceiling. As you inhale, bring the knee back up to the center, lower the foot to the ground, and then bend the right knee, bringing the sole of the foot to the ground. Roll yourself off to one side. Push your hands into the ground to push yourself up to a seated position. And then take a bolster, or you can stack neatly folded blankets. Coming into Supta Baddha Konasana, take 2 blocks or 2 rolled blankets, place them under your knees. I like to place blankets over my blocks so they're nice and soft. The soles of the feet together, knees out, supported by blocks or blankets. And carefully lie back over your bolster or blankets, letting yourself settle into the pose, Supta Baddha Konasana, breathing deeply. And start to deepen your breath, bringing your attention back to the room. Slowly bring your knees toward each other. And you can either carefully roll to your side to push yourself up, or support the back of your head with one hand as you push yourself up with the other hand. And then come onto your knees, facing your bolster, coming into child's pose, supported on the bolster. If child's pose is not comfortable for you, you can lie on your back, hugging your knees in toward your chest. And slowly push yourself up off of the bolster. Move the bolster off to the side. And from here, we'll come into legs up the wall pose. So turn your mat so the short end of the mat is right against the wall. And then I like to take a blanket and open it up on the mat so that I have something soft and warm to lie on. Once you've placed your blanket, smooth it out so that there are no wrinkles. And then coming into the pose, come to the edge of your mat, sit up against the wall, and then roll yourself over onto your back, bringing your legs up the wall. Once you're there, let your hips sink down into the ground. And with every exhalation, feel yourself settle a little more deeply into the pose. Slowly bend your knees, sliding your feet down the wall. And then roll yourself off to one side. From here, make your way into Shavasana, supporting as you like. You can put a bolster under your knees or a rolled blanket under your knees, a neatly folded blanket under your head. Arms are about 45 degrees off the body with the palms turned up so the shoulders can relax down toward the ground. Take a few deep breaths here, using your exhalations to release any tension you're still holding on to. And then let your breath return to its natural pattern, releasing control of the breath and letting yourself sink down into the support of the ground. Slowly begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circle your wrists and your ankles. And then gently rock your head from side to side. Reach your arms over your head and then stretch your arms and legs away from each other. Bend your knees. Roll yourself off to one side, resting your head on your arm. And then push your hand into the ground to push yourself up to a seated position. Bring your hands together. Take a few deep breaths there. Namaste.